Hi everyone, it's Lisa Stenz from Lisa's Creative Corner. Welcome to Sweet Ideas for Valentine, another video collaboration from the Creative Design team. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a shutter card, and these cards are so much fun because they're interactive. See how the message is revealed when you open the card? We're going to make two of these cards in the video today, but once you learn how to make a shutter card, you can use any stamps and any papers that you have at home to make your own cards. I created a design space file with all of the cuts for you so that you don't have to worry about writing down any of the sizes. I'm going to put a link down below to the design space file so that you can make these cards yourself. So let's get started making the first card. We're going to start out with a piece of candy apple cardstock for our base, and in the design space file it has all the score lines also. So you're going to go ahead and fold on the score lines. Then you're going to adhere the front panels. And I decided to cut my front panels on this card from some wood grain paper. And Close to My Heart has a wonderful wood grain paper packet in the core catalog. And the biggest thing for me, the toughest thing, was trying to decide which wood grain paper to use. So once I decided, I went ahead and used the design space file that, again, you can find the link down below to cut these front panels. And I'm just using some liquid glue and adhering them to the front with about a 16-inch border on all sides. And once I have those front panels adhered, I'm going to set the card base aside and work on the inside. And I have these two pieces again. They were cut from the design space file. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this wood grain panel to the top with the liquid glue. And the biggest thing here is you want to just make sure that those two circles line up perfectly in the center. Once they're lined up perfectly, you should have, again, about a 1/16 of an inch border all around the edges. So now you're going to take that card base and open it up, and we're going to line up this center panel with the circle directly in the center of the card. And I have a piece of white daisy cardstock that I'm going to put right in the middle, but I'm not adhering it down tightly yet because I want to make sure that it doesn't hang over. See how it hung over on the left side a little bit? So I was able to move it over. Once you have your white cardstock adhered, we're going to add some 3D foam tape to the top and bottom of the back side of that center panel. And you want to make sure that that banner piece fits in there. You don't want to put your 3D foam tape too close together so that banner piece won't slide in between. Now you can adhere that center panel directly in the middle of the card base, just like I did here. In the design space file, you'll find these two little banner shapes with a score line right on the edge. So what you're going to do is you're going to slip one of them on the left side underneath the center panel and center it as best as you can. See how that triangular shape is right in the center of that circle? Now you want the edge of that banner piece to butt up right against the score line on the card base. You don't want it to go over the score line. You want it to be just on the right side of the score line. And then you're going to add adhesive right on top of that exposed piece. Press down, and when you open the card, once the adhesive dries, you'll see that it bends that score line so that it opens and closes and moves that banner shape. So now that you have the one side adhered, you're going to go ahead and slip the other side in, but you want to make sure that the top and bottom are either both under or both over that other piece. You don't want the top to be under and the bottom to be over. And then go ahead and line it up just like you did on the left side. Add your adhesive and press down until it dries. And then when you open it, it'll pull that right side open and slide that little banner shape. And if you have a bone folder, you might just want to go up and down those creases just to make sure that they're creased nicely. So now when you open both sides together, it pulls both of those pieces and it looks like the shutter of a camera. Now we can find a sentiment to stamp in the center. Close to My Heart has these new months of the year stamps, and I'm going to use the February one because it has all kinds of fun Valentine sayings on it. And then on a piece of white daisy scrap cardstock, I stamped the word Valentine in candy apple ink, and I'm just using the masking technique to stamp the words Be Mine on top with black ink. I just covered up the word Valentine, inked up the stamp with black ink, and then took off that mask and then lined up the word Valentine, stamped it, and that way it stamped it in the perfect spot right on top of the word Valentine. So now I'm just cutting out the word Valentine with my microtip scissors. And I'm going to lay it on top of the inside of the cards just so I have an idea of where I want to stamp my sentiment in the center. So I'm just using it as a guide. I'm not adhering it quite yet. I'm just using it as a guide so I know where to stamp the sentiment on that center panel. Now I just need to figure out which sentiment I want in that center panel. I decided to use the Hey Sugar stamp, and I'm stamping it just above the center in some black ink. Since my husband's birthday is actually on Valentine's Day, I thought that these cupcakes were perfect because they have the Valentine's hearts and their cupcakes that go along with the birthday theme. So I stamped a bunch of them on some scrap white daisy cardstock, along with a couple of the I love you hearts. Now I'm using the intense black ink to stamp these because I'm going to color them in, and I know that the intense black ink won't bleed. I'm using some Spectrum Noir TriBlend markers to color these images in because they blend so beautifully, and each of these markers have 3 blendable colors all in one marker. I love these, and I use them on all kinds of projects. So I'm using the brown gray blend for the inside of the I love you heart, and as you can see, I'm using the darkest shade on the outside, the lightest shade in the center, and then the medium shade to blend them all together. And I just wanted to have a little bit of depth to this heart, and by doing it this way, it looks like it has a little bit of dimension. And I'm using the dark red marker on the outside little scallops of the heart. Once I'm done coloring the heart, I'm going to cut it out with my microtip scissors, just being real careful to cut around each of the little scallops. I love these scissors because they cut details so nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and color in some of these cupcakes, and I'm going to use the same brown-gray marker that I used on the heart for the cupcake liner, the little wrapper. And I'm doing it the same way. I'm doing the darkest color on the outside and the lightest color in the center, and then the medium color to blend it all together. And once I go over them a couple of times, I like to go over it again with the lightest color. It just really helps to blend the colors nicely. I'm using the coral marker on the frosting for this first cupcake, and again using the darkest color on the top and then blending down to the lightest color. And then I'm using the red marker again to color in the hearts, and the earth brown marker to color in the actual cupcake so it looks like it's a chocolate cupcake. Colored in a couple of the other cupcakes using citrus blend for the yellow one and hydrangea blend for the purple one. I ended up not using the yellow cupcake and just using the purple and the coral ones, but now I have an extra yellow cupcake for another project. So now I'm just using my microtip scissors again to cut these cupcakes out. Now I'm ready to go back to my card, and I decided that the Hey Sugar needed another little something. So I found this birthday hugs and kisses stamp that had some tiny little hearts. And so I decided to add a few of the little hearts to the Hey Sugar in some candy apple ink. And so I'm just placing these pieces that I stamped and die cut on the bottom just so for placement so I know where to stamp my hearts. So I've got one little heart here, and I wasn't sure. Sometimes I overdo it and stamp a little bit more than I should, and I don't know when to stop, and I think I did that on this card. Had I done it again, I probably would not have stamped 3. I probably would have just stamped 1. But that's okay. My hubby won't notice. He'll just think I love him extra with all these extra hearts. So now I'm going to go ahead and adhere the little cupcakes and the Valentine sentiment to the bottom. And the key here is to make sure that you don't put any adhesive on any parts that are going to overhang into that circle area, because we want to make sure that when you open and close the card that those little banner shapes are able to slide, and they won't be able to slide if the cupcakes or whatever you're going to be putting on the inside sticks to it. So I just made sure to put a little adhesive on the bottom of those cupcakes, and I adhered the Valentine sentiment with some 3D foam tape. So now we need to make a belly band to wrap around the card to keep it closed. Because it's so full on the inside, we need to wrap something around it, otherwise it's just going to kind of pop open. So I cut a piece of candy apple cardstock that measures 9.5 inches long and 5/8 inches wide. And I'm stamping this cute heart border all across in the candy apple ink. So now I'm going to wrap this belly band around the entire card, and I'm going to adhere it on the front because it overlaps just a little bit on the front. So I'm going to add a little adhesive to that front portion and hold it down tight until it dries. And I want to just make sure that it's loose enough that it slides up and down, but that it's tight enough to keep the card closed. So now I'm going to go ahead and adhere that cute little heart that I had stamped and colored in with a small piece of 3D foam tape. And that is going to finish off this fun card for my husband for his birthday. And I love that it opens up and it has a fun little saying inside, and I hope he enjoys it as much as I enjoyed making it. Here's a couple still shots of the finished card. Now we're going to make another card with a friend theme, and this uses the same design space file and the same techniques, but this one can be given to a friend for Valentine's Day or for any occasion really. We're going to be using a paper packet called Blossom, which is a special that was brought back and is only available through the end of February. We're going to start out with a Smoothie Cardstock base, and then the centerpiece is going to be die cut from a piece of Lagoon Cardstock and the floral paper from the Blossom paper packet. And just like we did on the previous card, we're going to adhere the pattern paper to the cardstock piece, lining up the circles in the center. Now we're going to add that white daisy cardstock to the inside of the card base, making sure that it lines up properly so it doesn't hang over at all. And then we'll add some of the 3D foam tape to the top and bottom of the back side of that center piece, just like we did on the first card. This time I'm adding a couple of extra pieces of foam tape down to the bottom there just to give it a little bit more dimension, but I'm still making sure that that banner shape fits in there properly. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove those strips and adhere that center panel directly to the inside of the card, making sure that it is as close to the center as possible. And you'll see that it's not exactly centered, so I'm going to just lift it up and center it the best that I can. If I was smart, I'd use a ruler, but I like to eyeball things. I'm not always perfect, but that's okay. So now we're going to go ahead and add that first banner shape, and this time it's a little bit easier to see where I'm lining it up because the two pieces of cardstock are different colors. So you can see that I'm lining it up, butting it right up against that score line, adding adhesive to that exposed portion and folding it closed and holding it until the adhesive dries. Then when I open it, it folds right on that score line and I can press down to make sure that it's creased nicely. So now I'm adding the other side, and you'll see what I was talking about before. See how the top and the bottom were not, one was inside and one was outside, or one was on the top and one was on the bottom? I had to adjust it so that they were both on the top. So now it's going to open and close properly. So again, I'm lining it up, making sure that it's as close to the center as possible and lined up as close to the other side as possible. Adding the adhesive to that exposed panel and folding it down, holding it in place till the adhesive dries. And then when I open it, it folds right on that score line and it creates that beautiful shutter effect that opens and closes so beautifully. Now I'm going to find a sentiment to fit inside, and this stamp set is called Sentiments and Stitches. And the sentiment that says life is better with friends fits just perfectly right in the center there. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that in black ink right in the center. And when I open and close the card, it looks perfect. Now I'm going to work on the front of the card. On the last card we did, I adhered these front panels first, but this time I wasn't sure which side of the pattern paper I wanted to use, if I wanted to use the busy floral pattern or the more subtle blue side. And so I decided that I think I'm going to use the floral side. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere those now, just like on the last card, with about a 1/16 of an inch border all around on each side. Now I'm going to work on the belly band that goes around the card. So I cut a piece of Lagoon cardstock to 9.5 inches long by 5/8 inches high, and I'm using this great sticker from the Blossom sticker sheet to go right in the center. And now I'm going to wrap it around, and you'll notice the sticker, sometimes when you put a sticker and then you try to fold it on a piece of cardstock, it kind of bows a little bit. So you just want to flatten that out. And then you're going to adhere it right in the center to keep it closed. And again, you want to make sure that it's not too tight so that it doesn't slide up and down, but that it's tight enough that it will hold the card closed. Now it's time to decorate this belly band. So I pulled out my stitched bracket thin cuts, and I die cut the largest bracket shape from a piece of white daisy cardstock. And in keeping with the Friends theme of this card, I pulled out my Sending Well Wishes stamp set, and I'm stamping this little Hello My Friend sentiment in the bottom right corner. I'm going to adhere the bracket to the belly band with a piece of 3D foam tape, and I'm just putting it right in the middle so that the whole piece will slide up and down. I want to make sure that I don't get any adhesive on any other parts, otherwise the belly band won't slide up and down. So I pulled out the Blossom sticker sheet that comes with the Blossom paper packet and decided to use these stickers. And because I knew that some of the stickers were going to hang off of the edge a little bit on this bracket, I didn't want any of the stickiness to be exposed, because then it wouldn't slide up and down, it would probably stick to the card. So I removed the stickiness with some baby powder, and you can just sprinkle either baby powder or cornstarch or some sort of powder onto the back of your stickers, and it basically just removes the stickiness and turns them into die cuts. So now I had my die cuts with no stickiness on the back, and I can add the adhesive wherever I want. So I went ahead and did that to the leaves. And now I'm just using some 3D foam tape to add the blue flower in the upper left corner. And I thought it was going to be finished, but I felt like it needed one more little pop of color. So I added this little sorbet flower just underneath the larger flower. And I probably didn't need to remove the adhesive on that sticker, but I did, so I had to add my own adhesive back. So that finished the outside of my card, and I decided I wanted to add one more sticker to the inside, and this sticker worked nicely, and so I went ahead and removed the adhesive on this one as well so that I could add some foam tape, and so that that top portion of those flowers wouldn't stick to the inside, so that when I opened and closed it, those little banner shapes would slide evenly. So that finished off my card, and I really love this one. I think it's perfect, like I said, to send to a friend for Valentine's Day or any day, because it doesn't really have the Valentine's theme to it. Here's a couple of still shots of this card. This one actually turned out to be my favorite of all the shutter cards that I made. Here's another look at all of the shutter cards that I made. The one on the right that says "You're Cute" was actually made using the Perfect Match paper packet, sticker sheet, and stamp set. And I just wanted to show you another option. You can use the same design space file, the same patterns, and use any paper packet, stamp sets, colors, cardstocks, whatever you already have at home you can use to make these shutter cards. And they are so much fun to make. I know I'm going to be making lots more in the future. I hope you learned something new today and are going to give these shutter cards a try yourself. I hope you also enjoyed this week-long series with the Creative Design team. If you haven't already, be sure to check out all the videos from all the Creative Design team members showing all kinds of different Valentine themed projects. I'll have links to each one of their videos down below. And be sure to subscribe to everyone's channels so that you won't miss our next series. And it's going to be a good one. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.